Ladies and gentlemen, for the benefit of the stream and everybody who is following us on the web.
Пані та панове, для тих, хто нас слухає в інтернеті, ми дуже раді вітати в українському центрі наших колег. Ми, як вже казали, життя продовжується, незважаючи на кризу. Українська фешн-індустрія, вона дуже активна, вона відслідковує не тільки діяльність на Майдані, організатори української фешн-віки, дизайнери, учасники цього тижню. Також дуже багато робили. І сьогодні з нами лідери Ukrainian Fashion Week, Iryna, Danylevska та Volodymyr. Також з нами відомі українські дизайнери Olga, Navrotska, Iryna, Pavlyk та Іван Фролов. Вони отримали, їх надихнув Майдан і всі події, які відбуваються. Вони будуть говорити про Ukrainian Fashion Week, яка розпочнеться завтра, і деякі з їх колекцій вони отримали, їх надихнули на ці колекції, ті події, які відбувалися на Майдані. Вони розкажуть про свою громадянську, як вони дивляться на те, що відбувається в Україні. Тому запрошую Ірину Данилевську, Володимира Nechyporuka, Ольгу Navrotську, Ірину Павлюк та Івана Фролова.
Добрий день, шановні друзі. Можна, я запрошу своїх колег також. Добрий день, шановні друзі.
To invite my colleagues as well. Good afternoon, colleagues. Today we are here to say that in Ukraine there are no people who would be indifferent to what's happening in the Crimea. We are saying that to oppose Russian aggression in Ukraine, people can in different ways. You can oppose it not just with weapons, but by the way how professionally and at high quality you are doing your business. This country, Ukraine, is not just the country of heroic people, but of talented people, people who can work in Europe, in the world, who are competitive. And the most important thing is that these are people who are not indifferent to what's happening in the country. And there's no professionalism without the integrity, without the civic position. And Ukrainian designers have been proving it during the recent months. Tomorrow we are starting the Ukrainian Fashion Week, and we are launching it just as it had been planned in political, economic conditions, and in a very difficult emotional environment. Ukrainian designers will show their collections to Ukraine and to the world. Good afternoon. I would like to start from saying that, first of all, for us, Euromaidan stopped being Euromaidan on the 30th of November. It's just Maidan for us. I cannot say that we were inspired by the events. We all were participants of the events. Most Ukrainian designers were active participants of the events taking place in Maidan, and they started their work from distributing the posters, and then were involved into making barricades and so on. And we've been thinking about whether to show our collection during the Ukrainian Fashion Week, because it seemed to us something, on the one hand, not important, but on the other hand, after what's happening, we needed to find forces, to find some strength to get back to what we have always been doing. In the fashion, there are two things. One thing is this secular part, and another it's a business component. We are responsible for people who work with them. We are responsible for paying salaries. We are responsible for Ukraine developing, and we made the decision to demonstrate our collection, and that is we will demonstrate what we were doing before, what we had been doing before this event started, and that's just not a reflection in the collections. It's not inspired by the events. These are our personal things. That is what we have been surviving through, what we have been feeling, and those who, and this is not so much about seeing some signs of Maidan. When you look at our collections, please understand that the collections were created in a very difficult environment when we were thinking things, but not about creating collections. I am Olga Navrotska. I'm designer, writer, and director. And first of all, I'm a citizen. I'm not exhibiting my collection. I didn't have time for that for 3 months. I've been involved into all these events taking place in my country. What's on me was made several months before Maidan started. I just made the series called the series Archangels. Why I created it, I cannot explain. When it all started, I realized that there's something there, and the first sign I invented was stop regime, and then when I invented the stop Putin, and we started making these T-shirts and putting these signs in the House of Trade Unions, but then the House of Trade Unions was burnt, and then I participated in evacuating people from the House of Trade Unions, and that was all in the war, during the war, and we were, from time to time, when there were some intervals in the war going on, we were trying to create something. But then when we realized that there's a real threat, I even live close by, and I believe that what was the most awful thing that could have happened was Maidan and Institutska Street, and after that we'll be working in peaceful conditions. But now I would like to call upon the whole world to please stop that person, because he's evil. Stop Putin is my message to the whole of the world. We'll be doing all we can for that.
Hello, everybody. I'm Ivan Frolov, a young Ukrainian designer. For the second time, we will be exhibiting our produce at the Fashion Week, and it's very hard for young designers to create our collections. And when we started to create our collection, when they started to kill people in Maidan, no one could work, and thanks to people like Alina Malyushkina, Iryna Khmelnik, they were the initiators of the project. They called upon every Ukrainian designer to make body armor for our Ukrainians who were dying for their wish to live in another country, in a new country. We all together assembled, and people who went through Afghanistan helped us. Those who know about body armor told us how we should assemble the plates, and we all together, every studio, Yasa Khomenko and other people were designing their own kind of body armor. It is very hard to gather so much bravery so that not to see it and to create this collection. However, now we understand that Ukraine needs support so that we show that we are not surrendering and we are ready to work further and nothing will break us. So I think it is a great victory that the Fashion Week starts within the dates that the international community has defined. I brought an instrument today so that you can see what models we have designed. These are the designs of body armor that we made. Every designer was suggesting their own versions in order to make this as good as possible in order to protect our people. Hello. Ivan is more used to making than to talking. And last week, when we were talking about whether to launch or not to launch the Fashion Week, Ivan said, I cannot manage to make my collection because I was making body armor. He's 20 years old, so when we gathered and decided whether we should launch the Fashion Week, all my hesitations came to an end when I was listening to the press conference of Mr. Putin, who said that we live in chaos, bedlam, and fascism. I just had to prove to the world that we are not in chaos and we are building our country irrespective of aggression of enemies, and that this is a country of issues with designers and subcontractors, and we were solving quite a lot of issues on barricades on the Maidan. Our designers were holding medical duty in the hospitals and were looking for empty bottles and on the morning of the 19th, and we were bringing tires. So we were doing everything that the militia can do in order to protect our future. And we do not only want to show the collections, but to tell all the world, help us to stop the ruination machine that is in onslaught on us from Moscow. Glory to Ukraine.
We will have a registration opened for anybody from
Реєстрація для всіх з числа міжнародних працівників засобів інформації. Хто хоче піти на Український тиждень моди, будь ласка, підходьте до мене. Ми вас зв'яжемо із організацією службою Українського тижня моди. Ви зможете там побути і поговорити більше з тими, кого ми сьогодні бачимо, і розповсюдити ту інформацію. Дуже вам дякую.